The Cook County Courthouse in the heart of Chicago grew oppressively stifling the moment the spectator benches filled the wooden-paneled courtroom. Fluorescent lights cast a pale glare upon the bench, reflecting off the tense face of Marcus Lee, 18, standing there with his hands tucked into his pockets and a steadfast look in his eyes. The defense table loomed too large for his slender frame, yet confidence radiated from his straight posture and calm expression, dispelling any notion of a flustered youth. Judge Eleanor Whitfield, a commanding woman with silver hair and a solemn black robe, rapped her gavel lightly. Leaning forward, she lowered her voice in a challenging tone. "Do you imagine yourself a legal expert, boy?" Her harsh words made those in the courtroom shudder. A ripple of suppressed laughter rose from the gallery, mingled with the rustle of papers from the clerk. Marcus's gaze betrayed no hint of fear. He lifted one corner of his mouth in a slight smirk and answered with warm but firm clarity. "Your Honor, I will be representing myself." Silence swept the room like a wave, threatening to engulf every occupant. Prosecutor Ava Thompson halted mid-gesture, surprise flickering in her eyes before she steadied herself and spoke evenly. "Your Honor, the state of Illinois will demonstrate that the defendant operated the reported stolen 1965 Mustang yesterday morning and then fled when pursued along Michigan Avenue." Judge Whitfield turned to the jury and nodded slightly. In a soft voice, she remarked, "It sounds straightforward." Then she faced Marcus. "Proceed with your defense." He stepped up to the lectern, hands still in his pockets, eyes sweeping the jurors. "Your Honor," Marcus began, "Mr. Ruiz did not see me behind the wheel. His GPS data places him over 5 miles away at the time in question. Near the Wacker Drive Bridge." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom as he paused, drawing every eye to him. The judge furrowed her brow and quietly ordered, "Request the witness's GPS verification." Prosecutor Thompson hesitated, then awkwardly rifled through her file. The jurors exchanged looks of cautious hope. Tension, taut as a drawn bowstring, signaled an unexpected turn in what had seemed a routine trial. Marcus straightened his shirt and inclined his head in thanks toward his family in the back row. The gallery fell silent save for the clerk's soft sigh and distant footsteps. As the trial resumed, everyone understood, today, the law would not rest on paper evidence alone, but on justice forged through honesty and transparency. When all eyes turned again to Prosecutor Ava Thompson, she cleared her throat, adjusted her papers, and advanced to the lectern. "Your Honor, witness Daniel Ruiz's GPS device is the lifeline confirming his presence at the scene. This proof clearly shows defendant Marcus Lee behind the wheel when the Mustang 65 was driven off." She held up a certified copy of Ruiz's report, her tone decisive as if to close off any further rebuttal. A few jurors nodded quietly in the gallery, but Marcus remained composed. He approached the lectern, his hands still in his pockets, and spoke in a calm, resonant voice. "Your Honor, Mr. Ruiz's GPS data is inherently approximate and requires error margin verification. I respectfully request that the court admit the device's calibration records and the original data logs for accuracy assessment. Without that technical confirmation, this cannot serve as conclusive evidence." His deft move visibly unsettled the prosecutor. Judge Whitfield drew her brows together slowly. The clerk signaled for a recess to review the files. Whispers buzzed among the spectators and hurried footsteps echoed as court staff retrieved documents. Marcus sat back down, gazing at the ceiling to steady himself. A close friend in the back row gave him an encouraging wink. The technical team soon displayed the data on a large monitor. A coordinate map emerged, revealing that Ruiz's device had logged him 8 miles from the courthouse at the critical moment, far beyond any allowed margin of error. Judge Whitfield tapped her gavel, her voice hopeful. "Prosecutor Thompson, please present the GPS calibration certificate and the accompanying location log." Thompson bit her lip and fumbled through her stack of files, her discomfort plain. Finally, she had to admit the omission. "Your Honor, the calibration certificate is not included in the official record." Silence engulfed the courtroom, save for collective heartbeats. Judge Whitfield declared, "The witness's GPS evidence is inadmissible. We shall proceed based on other evidence." What once seemed unassailable now wavered, opening a fresh path for Marcus's defense. His face glowed with confidence, A slight smile affirmed that justice stands firm only when evidence is thoroughly challenged. Part 1 concluded amid the rustle of papers and the jurors' renewed faith that the next phase of this trial would be a truly fair contest. As Judge Whitfield rapped her gavel, Prosecutor Thompson quickly intervened. "Your Honor, we do possess Mr. Ruiz's GPS data, which places him near the Wacker Drive Bridge at the precise moment the Mustang 65 sped away." Her tone brimmed with assurance as she swept her gaze over the jury. As if to seal every doubt, the tension snapped taut again. Marcus Lee lifted his chin and held silence for a heartbeat, capturing every eye in the room. Then, with measured steps, he approached the stand. "Your Honor, GPS simply indicates a device in the vicinity. To confirm Mr. Ruiz personally observed me. The court requires the calibration certificate and detailed log entries. I respectfully request these records be produced." His concise, incisive point drew murmurs of admiration. The clerk promptly called for another recess. Court technologist Mary Ann activated her terminal, projecting the map onto the big screen once more. This time, the coordinates persisted. Ruiz had been 8 miles away, well outside any reasonable error margin. Judge Whitfield frowned and intoned, "Prosecutor Thompson, please present the GPS calibration certificate." Thompson's confidence faltered as she searched her papers before admitting, "Your Honor, those documents are incomplete and were not submitted." The hush settled, punctuated by hurried footsteps. "Mr. Ruiz's GPS data is therefore inadmissible," Judge Whitfield pronounced. "We will proceed on other evidence." She turned to Marcus. "Continue." A sense of wakefulness swept the courtroom. The jury and onlookers realized that evidence is not mere assertion but must withstand scrutiny in every detail. After the GPS data was struck, the trial atmosphere changed. Judge Whitfield rapped her gavel and said, "Next, we will examine the fingerprint evidence." Prosecutor Thompson produced an enlarged photograph. Placing it on the stand, "Your Honor," she announced confidently, "a clear imprint of the defendant's fingerprints was found on the Mustang 65 steering wheel." Marcus rose calmly and approached the lectern. "Your Honor," he said, "fingerprints alone do not establish ownership. May we have the forensic analyst present to testify on the collection, preservation, and analysis procedures?" His question hung in the air. No expert witness had been listed. Judge Whitfield flipped through her notes. "No expert credentials or chain of custody documentation have been provided with that evidence." She turned to Thompson. "Prosecutor, please present the forensic reports and expert affidavits." Thompson hesitated, then murmured, "Your Honor, those documents were not completed." She bowed her head in concession. Murmurs of astonishment swept through the gallery. Marcus stepped back, then spoke again. "Your Honor, absent a qualified expert and documented procedures, fingerprint evidence cannot be deemed conclusive. I request that it be excluded." His firm tone underscored the necessity of transparency in court. Judge Whitfield rapped her gavel. "The fingerprint evidence is excluded." She glanced at Marcus. "Proceed." The courtroom trembled with the realization that the prosecution's once solid case had splintered under rigorous challenge. Marcus then advanced to the podium, reaching into his shirt pocket for a crisp sheet of paper. "Your Honor, I submit a sworn statement from Leonard Bradley, the Mustang's owner." In his initial affidavit, Mr. Bradley stated he left the car running outside his shop, hurried inside to make a purchase, and witnessed a taller individual in a red jacket drive off in the car. He handed the statement to the clerk, while hope sparkled in the jurors' eyes. Prosecutor Thompson froze, visibly unsettled. Judge Whitfield inclined her head and said in a measured tone, "The statement from Mr. Bradley is accepted. We will recess briefly to verify its authenticity." She struck her gavel, and the courtroom erupted in renewed activity. Marcus returned to his seat, relief softening his features. The tide of justice had turned in favor of truth. Judge Whitfield struck her gavel once more, her voice warm yet firm. "Given the conflicting data and the newly submitted statement, the court finds insufficient grounds and hereby dismisses the charges against defendant Marcus Lee." A wave of astonishment and joy washed over the jurors. Marcus folded his paper, looked at his family, and smiled gently. Outside the courtroom windows, a shaft of sunlight pierced the gloom, heralding a new dawn of justice and hope. That afternoon, Marcus Lee emerged from the courthouse steps to cheers and camera shutters. He paused on the top step, inhaled deeply, and felt the Chicago sun warm his shirt. His mother, Linda, rushed forward to embrace him, tears glistening on her cheeks. In that suspended moment, Marcus addressed the crowd. Today, justice is not just words on paper but transparency and the courage to stand for the truth. His words resonated in every heart present, prompting many to wipe away tears. In the trial's wake, the Justice Transparency Initiative was launched in Chicago. Backed by volunteer lawyers and law students, Marcus was invited to serve as the keynote speaker at workshops teaching self-representation and citizens' rights. Young people from underprivileged neighborhoods to university campuses attended in droves. Judge Whitfield herself, impressed by Marcus's challenge, issued a directive to revise court procedures, mandating expert witnesses and chain-of-custody documentation be present at trial. She acknowledged that without Marcus's intervention, critical oversights would have continued unchecked. Marcus did not rest on his victory. He began pursuing his dream to become an attorney and planned to open a free legal clinic for the indigent. He believed that when individuals have the courage to challenge injustice, transparency can illuminate the law for everyone's benefit. Just weeks after the Justice Transparency Initiative launch, Chicago's Cultural Center buzzed with excitement. Marcus Lee took the stage under bright lights, his young but determined face clear for all to see. He opened, "When evidence is rigorously verified, justice becomes not a distant concept but the very breath of our community." His words echoed through the hall as hundreds of law students and volunteers listened raptly. The program comprised 3 core components: training in self-representation, courtroom evidence verification workshops, and citizen justice dialogue forums. At each session, Marcus and experienced attorneys taught participants how to examine documents, demand expert testimony, and cross-check forensic findings. He emphasized, no evidence is truly strong without rigorous scrutiny. Outside, Mai, a single mother who had suffered wrongful detainment, shared, "Thanks to this program, I learned to gather surveillance footage and proper affidavits. I defended my daughter against baseless accusations." Her story kindled newfound resolve in attendees. Judge Whitfield also took part in the forums, listening to citizens' input and proposing procedural reforms. More judges began proactively requiring expert witnesses in cases involving technical evidence. The Detroit Center for Justice reported a 60% drop in wrongful detention complaints. Marcus continued expanding the model statewide. He concluded one seminar with a rallying call, "Unless we all dare to challenge injustice, transparency cannot truly prevail. Let's build a fair legal system, for the rights of each of us." Applause resounded as hope for the future grew ever brighter. The next morning on Jackson Square, the dawn's light filtered through red flame maple leaves, illuminating rows of chairs before the stage. Hundreds of Chicagoans, elderly, youth, and children clinging to parents' hands, gathered in eager anticipation. In their midst stood Marcus Lee, now a first-year law student at the University of Chicago. Beaming with warmth, he inhaled deeply and proclaimed, "Today, we do more than commemorate a single trial. We celebrate the spirit of transparency and the power of citizens standing for truth." Below him, Mai wiped away tears of relief. She recalled her despair when wrongfully detained and how demanding expert testimony in court had restored her life. "Thanks to Marcus and the Justice Transparency Initiative, my daughter and I were able to reclaim our peace," she said, her voice thick with emotion. The crowd's applause thundered in affirmation that small steps can ignite great confidence. Following Marcus's address, Judge Whitfield quietly ascended the platform. She nodded respectfully and spoke with solemn conviction. "Today, the courts commit to ongoing reforms, inviting forensic and expert witnesses to every trial involving technical evidence. The right to fair demonstration shall no longer be out of reach." Her words shone like a beacon, kindling hope in the entire justice system. Next, they unveiled the Citizen Self-Defense Network. In partnership with the Law School and Volunteer Bar Association, a team of law students and attorneys offered free workshops on evidence collection, drafting expert requests, and basic self-representation. Marcus and Judge Whitfield also announced the Courageous Citizen Scholarship Fund, supporting those who speak out against injustice. amid fluttering banners and flags. Veteran reporter Tom declared, "Marcus's story has inspired thousands, from Detroit to Houston to San Francisco. When citizens dare to challenge bias, they transform not only their destinies but also spark a wave of justice." Cameras captured the mingled joy and tears on faces throughout the square. The program concluded with a balloon release. Each balloon carried messages like, "I believe in truth," and "Justice for all," rising into the bright sky and carrying collective hope aloft. Marcus held the microphone one last time. "If we do not stand up for ourselves, who will? Let each of us be a guiding candle, illuminating righteousness and transparency." Cheers thundered across the plaza in a triumphant finale that lingered in every heart. When the crowd dispersed, Marcus descended to meet Mai and handed her a community suggestion journal, where anyone might propose further legal reforms. He spoke gently. "We will meet again in future trials, workshops, and even in the legislature. The journey of defending justice never ends." His handshake with Judge Whitfield symbolized that when courage and transparency unite, justice endures. Please share this story to let others know their voice can move the system. Subscribe and ring the bell for more inspiring journeys, because only united can we build a truly fair and hopeful world.